Welcome to this session. Today we will be understanding system analysis. In the previous sessions, we have talked about the various approaches in human geography. Specifically, we have talked about the radical approach, the behavioral approach. But system analysis is an important component of human geography because this theory was the one that laid the foundation for many developments which were related to the field of resource allocation, urban management. So when I say system analysis, I am trying to analyze a system. But what is actually a system? I can say system is something which works as a whole and it functions as a whole just due to the interdependence of its parts. So if I say I have a system and there are interdependence of parts in that system, I can say that system can function as a whole, and when that system functions as a whole, it would be an effective system. Now, to understand this, there were various developments that took place. It started with Bentemleff, who was a kind of biologist, and he first applied the concept of system in biological world. He said every organism grows, and when an organism grows, there is interdependence of various activities that is involved within that system to grow. So there are various functions that human being perform, and all those functions are interrelated, and ultimately you can see human being as a whole and human being as a living and functioning entity. So Bentemleff first applied it to biological world, but later on he realized that it's not just the biological world where you can apply the system analysis, but it can be expanded to the non-biological aspects as well. As a result, the system analysis grew more and more, and specifically after the Second World War, and the main areas or the main ambit I could say where it grew most was the aspects of physics and mathematics. So all the places where the concepts of physics and mathematics were applied, specifically in geography, became the core focus of system analysis. I could say a good example would be most of the theories. I can give an example of central place theory here. So central place theory was one of the theories where you could say there was application of system analysis, and this system analysis grew with the developments in the field of mathematics and physics as well. So it was a kind of self-regulating mechanism that was propounded under the concept of cybernetics later on. And this cybernetics formed the basis for the development of system analysis. So if I want to say what would be the characteristics of a system, I could say I can study it as a system itself. It deduces from the analogies. So you have analogies from where it is deduced. Okay. Now there are three basic aspects that we need to understand before we start with the type of interrelationships and the type of system. The first is the structure, function, and the development. Unless and until we know the structure of something, we cannot proceed with the next 2 points. So let's first understand the structure of a system analysis. It talked about three basic elements. First is the element itself. The next is the link. And the third is a kind of interrelationship. So how can I explain or help you understand this? We can take a simple example of, say, vegetation that is growing into a region. So if you try to understand the pattern of vegetation, This vegetation is affected by the rainfall. It's affected by the temperature, or I could say the sunlight. So temperature, rainfall and vegetation would be my elements. Links would be the things that are relating temperature to vegetation and rainfall to vegetation. And finally, the interrelationship, that is dependence of vegetation on temperature and dependence of the vegetation on rainfall. So I can say specific kind of vegetation grows well in dry seasons. The other kind of vegetation grows good in hot and humid climate. So that is a kind of interrelationship I can establish. So the three things that are very important under the structure of system analysis is first the element, then you have the link, and finally you have the interrelationship. So let's go back to the previous slide. So under the aspects and the characteristics, I can say we talked about the structure already. Now let's move on to the function and development. So what kind of function each structure would provide would be covered under the second subsection here. And finally is the development, that is the growth of the system. Now when I say the development of the system, I can explain the system in two ways. I can say I have a system A and system B here. So these are the two systems that I have, and these two systems are kind of interrelated to one another. But each of these systems cannot function independently. Say supposedly system A is a kind of industry and system B is a kind of market. So let me write here industry and market. To understand system analysis best, it's best that we divert our ideas from one branch of geography to another. So the previous example that we took was from agricultural geography. Now we have moved on to industrial geography. So system A is a kind of industry and system B is a kind of market, and these two systems are interrelated. Now this system A has numerous subsystems within the system, say 1, 2 and 3. So within the industry you have a manufacturing unit, you have a marketing unit, you have a HR department. Under the marketing system you might have a global market and a local market. Now what is known as 1, 2, 3 here would be the subsystems. So 1, 2, 3 would be the subsystems and A and B are the systems. Now I have already tried to establish a relationship between A and B. So A and B are kind of mutually interrelated. But it's not just the case that A and B or the systems themselves are interrelated, but you can see there are the subsystems within the system that are interrelated. For example, the marketing department of the industry would be related to the global market as well as the domestic market. You might have the production department which might derive its inputs from the global market as well as the domestic market. So here we can see there is relationship not only within the system, but there is relationship also within the subsystems, and both this system and subsystem fall under a super system that we call it. So this super system includes the subsystems as well as the systems. So that is a kind of development that we talk about in case of the system analysis. Now, the most important aspect of system analysis here is the aim of the system analysis is to reduce the complexity. So what I am ultimately trying to do here is I am trying to decrease the complexity of the system, and I am trying to help you understand the system by means of simple ways or simple analysis. So that's the most important part of any system analysis. The next is it tries to understand or explain the interaction of one element with another element. And finally, it tries to provide as much information about one system as about the other system. So the next thing that we would be understanding here is the various types of interrelationships that can exist within a system. So when I say there is a system and there are kind of interrelationships within the system, the most common explanation that I can give is the 5 type of interrelationships. The first interrelationship is a kind of cause and effect relationship. We also call it a series relationship. So AI directly affects AJ and so on. So it's a kind of very simple or a kind of serial analysis that exists in series. A classic example again from agricultural geography I can take would be Indira Gandhi Canal has increased the agriculture in the area of deserts of Rajasthan. So what is happening is the Indira Gandhi Canal would be one means that is directly affecting the agriculture in the desert area. So that's a kind of series relationship. Then the next would be a parallel relationship where 2 elements affect one element. So I can say temperature and rainfall affect the vegetation or the climate of a region. So that's a kind of parallel relationship. Then you have a feedback relationship. Now feedback is something goes from A and returns back. So it's a kind of loop that is formed. Now feedback can be of 2 types. It can be positive, it can be negative. A positive feedback would be considered as a self-enhancing system. On the other hand, negative feedback would be considered as a self-regulating system. So when I say self-enhancing system, if we take an example of day-to-day life, I can say a student who is average in class performs well, gets a lot of compliments and then starts to perform further well. So that is a kind of positive or self-enhancing mechanism that takes place. So A affects B, B leads to further improvement and so on. While the negative is a kind of self-regulating, for example, our body temperature. Our body temperature is a kind of self-regulated system. It's not that our body temperature keeps on rising every day. So our body temperature is maintained on a daily basis. Whatever the surrounding environment is, so what we can try to do is we try to maintain a kind of homeostasis or balance, and it would be called as a equilibrium state that is formed by a negative feedback system. The next is a simple compound relationship and a complex compound relationship. These 2 relationships are commonly seen in the aspects of resource allocation. So whenever I talk about resource allocation or say urban management or waste management or kind of any broad aspect of geography when I am talking about, there would be a kind of relationship that is either simple or complex compound. So simple complex, you have 2 elements, you have interrelationship between these 2, and then you have a kind of feedback loop that also operates here. And a complex compound, you would have the interrelationships within the input and output of one with the input and output of another, and again you would have a feedback loop that operates within the 2 individual elements. So these are the kinds of various interrelationships. Now once we know the interrelationships that can exist in a system, we can understand the various kinds of systems. The first kind of system that we would try to understand today is an isolated system. Isolated system is a system that has no relationship with the surrounding world. So there is no exchange of energy or matter. It's a kind of completely isolated system with no transfer of either energy or matter. That would be an isolated system. Next is a closed system. Closed system allows transfer of energy, but there is no transfer of matter. For example, planet Earth, I can say there is transfer of energy from sun, but there is no transfer of matter from the surrounding areas. The next is open system. So when I talk about open system, I say there is transfer of energy as well as there is transfer of matter from the surrounding areas. A classic example would be any ecosystem that I take. There is exchange of energy and matter. The next is the morphological system. So when I say there is a morphological system, that means the system has a kind of connection between the individual elements. So a river system would be a kind of morphological system. So the various elements of the river system form the morphological system. The next here is the cascading system. So cascading system, whenever I say, includes a flow of energy. So when I say flow of energy, it either kind of moves from one element to another. So there is a kind of flow that is maintained under a cascading system. Then next is the process response system. So process response system, you have the relationship, kind of interrelationships of morphological as well as a cascading system. So when I say river system is included under morphological system, if I try to explain a kind of stream flow or the stream flow to reduce a flood hazard, that would be under a control system. But what would be a stream flow? A stream flow would be a kind of process response system, because that's a process that is going on and the stream of the flow, the flow of the stream is channelized within that river. And finally you have a control system where I say in case of floods you have a hazard, in case of flood hazard you have a kind of idea to reduce or control the flow of that stream. So that would be explained under the control system. And finally a ecosystem. A ecosystem I could say includes the super systems and the subsystems that we have previously talked about. So in the previous, when we talked about the structure of system analysis, we explained the superstructures and the super systems and the subsystems within the system. So these are the kind of various systems that we have talked about. Now whatever the system be, the system can be either steady, that is maintained in an equilibrium. There is no kind of movement or no kind of drastic changes in the system. The next is a metastable system, where the system is already in a stable state, but still it tries to attain higher stability as compared to the previous systems. And finally you have a dynamic system. A dynamic system is a system that keeps on changing off and on. So once we understand the types of interrelationship, we can know the types of systems that exist. And all of these systems can either be steady, they can be either metastable or dynamic in nature. So this was the basic aspect of system analysis. Most of the research that was done was by Chorley and Binet. Now different scientists applied the concepts to various fields. Chorley and Hagedstern applied it to the field of locational analysis. Then you have Binet and Barre that applied it to the developments in the cities and the allocation of resources. So there were numerous people who did various research on system analysis. Now to follow with system analysis, we would be covering locational analysis in the further sessions. You can subscribe to ExamRace channel for any further updates. Stay tuned. Have a good day ahead.